Looking to be more productive and jump those hurdles of change and challenge easier? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji.
Hello, and welcome to the Thrive in Life show. I'm your host, Zaheen Nanji. In this show, we help you make resilience your first reflex. Today, we have Claire with us, and she's going to talk about the resilient brain. So I just wanted to introduce her first before we dive into the juicy stuff. So she owns a company called Brain Smart, Mind Power in Action. I love that, Mind Power. So she has a diploma in the neuroscience of leadership and has completed the foundations of psychology with the College of LPS at the Penn State University in USA. She's actually on the interview from UK though. She also specializes in a lot of stuff which she is going to tell us about. But she has a book on storytelling for communicators and leaders called A Sprinkling of Magic. Claire, come on and say hi to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be speaking with you, Zaheen, and to be speaking with your listeners today as well.
Yes. Well, I'm thrilled because me and you are all about the same thing, resilience.
We are. We certainly are.
And I just want to tell the audience how we met. So we met in a course that we both took with Hugh Culver, who is a mentor of ours when it comes to the speaking industry. And so we met through there and we became friends. And this is how you meet people, right? When you join courses or you join Facebook groups where you have the same interests. So Claire, let's start with what is your definition of resilience?
Okay, well, if we use the metaphor of a roller coaster, that life is a roller coaster. It has its ups and its downs, and we're not going to be able to flatten that out. So my definition of resilience is that we have two choices as to how we ride that roller coaster. One, we could get in there, we could hang on for grim death, eyes closed, and hope it'll all be over really, really soon. Or we can choose to get in the front carriage, eyes wide open, and hands in the air. And that for me is resilience, learning to ride the roller coaster of life with hands in the air in the front carriage.
I love that metaphor. And I will tell you, I have been on one of those, and it's scary.
It certainly is.
Eyes closed because I feel sick to my stomach.
But it can also be exciting.
It can. And I envy my daughter who's 11, and I've gone with her. And she can just look up and put her hands in the air and just yell. And I just look at her with envy and I go, okay, I'm just going to model her. So tell me your story. What made you get into this area? How did you use the skills to bounce back?
Okay. How I got into the area of resilience is probably more from a business perspective. I was seeing people really struggle through change. But if it's okay with you, Zaheen, I'd like to share what is actually quite a personal story.
Yes, please.
Because I think it explains well where I'm come from and why I'm so passionate about this. So when I was 40, I met the man of my dreams. It took me a little while. And the reason it took me a little while is, and I'm sure there are many of your listeners have been in this situation, I was in a relationship when I was younger that was quite destructive and quite violent. And actually it was the emotional violence that hurt more than the physical violence. And what I did was I built up this huge defense wall, and I wasn't even conscious of it. It was more a subconscious defense wall where I just kept at arm's length from people. And, eventually I learned to build my resilience skills, and that's how I was open to meet Jason. And Jason happened to be from Australia and I was in the UK. So we decided to make a go of it, and we moved to Australia, and we then decided we'd like to start a family, and we tried. and nothing was happening naturally. We were having a lot of practice. And so we decided to go down the IVF route.
Mm-hmm.
And after multiple attempts and very, very high credit card bills, I decided that was it. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Mm.
And I sat down with him and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that, you can't be the amazing dad that I know you could and would be, but I just can't do this anymore. And his response floored me. And he said, hey, look, it was never about kids. Kids would have always been a bonus. This is about you and me. Always has been, is now, and always will be.
Mm.
And it took that experience for me to really see him and see who he is. And then that led on to another way of building my resilience, which is to see things from a different perspective. So when people ask me now if I have a family, I say, yeah, I've got 3 kids. I've got one in Ghana, one in Kenya, and one in Cambodia. And I pay for their education, and I don't get any of the hassles. So I still have a family. It's just a sponsored family.
When you spoke about your husband and how you sat with him and said, hey, that was so emotional.
I can wipe my eye now.
Yes. It almost like I was just feeling for you, because I can completely understand that too. I mean, even though I've got kids, but it's nice to have the companion part of it where, and I always say this to my husband, when I was interviewed in another show, the host asked me, so who's your coach? And I said, my husband. And then he goes, it's free of charge, is it?
we end up with our greatest teachers.
Yes. And he is mine, because every time I feel grim and just holding my hands on the roller coaster, I bounce on him to get something that I feel good about myself, that I can bounce back up again. So I say, yeah, he's my coach.
Excellent.
That is an amazing story, Claire. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for allowing me to.
So can you give us some insight into what you mean by the resilient brain?
Yes, this is a fascinating area of study, and it's so exciting. And actually, Zaheen, we are just at the very, very tip of the iceberg of understanding about the possibilities and the potential of our brain. So some of your listeners or viewers might or might not be familiar with this concept of neuroplasticity. So up until only about 10 years ago, we thought that once we reached about the age of 40 that our brain had matured and started to decline. And that's absolutely not true. So our brains are now capable of making new connections, which means that we can learn new things. So that concept of teaching you can't teach an old dog new tricks, we can throw that out the window, because we can. And what this means for the potential of resilience is that it may be that we had an upbringing where we didn't have an opportunity to practice resilience, and resilience is built by experience.
Yes.
But the good news is that we can, it doesn't matter how old we are, we can learn to become resilient. And what I mean by the resilient brain, we almost have to go back to, our earliest of human experiences. Where if I can build a brain with my hand, if that's okay, I can explain it that way. So this is our brain stem, so the very bottom of the brain, and then this goes down to our spine, and this is the part of the brain basically that keeps us alive and does all of our automatic functions, breathing and blood flow, etc. Now see my thumb here?
Yeah.
That is the emotional center of our brain, and it's tucked away right in the middle, and it's quite small. And then we have the executive, the cortex, the executive function of our brain that